Poppy Playtime Chapter 3. It's been a while since I've last made a video about this game, and of course, since there's a new chapter, I'm going back for another challenge. This chapter introduces many new additions to the grab pack. You can get an upgrade to the distance your hands can go, as well as being able to use the purple hand and the red hand, which is different from the regular red hand that we lost in the previous chapter. But while trying to think of a new challenge for this game, I realized I should probably settle my differences with the green hand that we tried so hard not to use the last chapter. So as an apology, I decided I would try to find out the answer to the question, can you beat Poppy Playtime Chapter 3 while only using the green hand? The rules are exactly as you'd imagine. We are not allowed to use the grab pack unless it is using the green hand. This means we cannot use the blue hand, which is always on our left arm, the purple hand, which launches us upward, and the red hand, which can shoot flares to scare away smiling critters. If we end up using something other than the green hand, it will be shown by this counter on screen. This game starts off in a garbage crusher. If we climb out of the crusher through this hole, we can find a bar we can use the green hand to pull ourselves up to a bit of a platforming section on some pistons. After getting past these, we can bring this platform over to us so we don't fall into a pit of red smoke, and reach a vent that brings us to our first battery scavenger hunt, which is very easy. But after this, we reach our very first obstacle. We need these batteries to open up a door. But in addition to that, we're also going to need to use the blue hand to activate the door. So we might have already found a stop in our challenge, but I wasn't going to let that happen. The Poppy Playtime games always have something in common. They are severely broken, and that's because we've been given a little too much power. And in this case, I mean it. We are too strong. If we head on over to the display settings and put our frames to 30, we can grab pretty much anything and lose all control of the grab pack because of the insane momentum. The objects we grab can sometimes move so fast they'll get stuck inside of walls. So I thought that maybe if I brute force it, I might be able to use the grab pack to move an object that'll move me. And that's kinda true. We can sometimes float on top of objects while also being on top of that object. I thought maybe we can get pushed into the ceiling like this, but the ceiling here has depth, so I'd have to find somewhere else that has a thin ceiling, like the vents. If we bring an object back to the vents with us, we can find a spot where we had to fall down. If we then stand on top of the object and start pulling it, we can float upwards and through the vent ceiling with ease. The only problem with this is that we can only see outside of the vent. We can't really get out of here. So I tried to see if there was anything else I could use here, but nothing worked. Not until I lowered my FPS even further and tried using this slim air tank that launched me inside of the ceiling. This was very unlucky since I can't really move, but at the same time it's extremely lucky because now we know it's theoretically possible to phase through walls. So after experimenting for a while, we can eventually zip through the door and reach the next area while only using the green hand. After this, we reach a part that actually requires the green hand, so we can get past that easily to grab a phone with a boy on the other end telling us what we should do to make it out of here alive. He provides us with a battery to open up another door that shows us the train we crashed in the previous chapter, but after this we reach a puzzle that clearly requires the use of both of our hands. But since we aren't allowed to do that, I tried finding a different way of getting through this. The puzzle we just mentioned is supposed to let us go through this turnstile to reach the next area, but in that same space there are walls going upwards, with some of them not going all that high. So I was wondering if I can find something that would help me with floating over these walls, and I ended up finding a barrel that can easily let me hop over the wall. Now you can probably tell something is different from the normal run. There's supposed to be a tram here, but it's just sort of missing now. If we jump where it would be normally, we can hit a loading zone that teleports us inside the tram that would take us to Playcare. After we get here, we're told to go under the statue in the middle of the Playcare. Inside, we can grab a key and open a door to the gas production zone. While we're here, we can grab a battery from the left side and bring it to the right side, which gives us the purple hand, which we aren't going to be using. The purple hand normally allows us to bounce pretty high in the air on certain spaces that have a purple hand symbol, but since we can't really use those, we're going to have to once again float on up to reach the next area with even more spots to use the purple hand. Somehow we were able to get through it all by floating, but we did run into yet another puzzle that requires both hands to get past. So maybe we can find a way to skip this? If we go into later parts of the chapter to try to skip this, we most likely wouldn't be very lucky because of the smiling critters we'd have to push back using the red hand's flare gun. I wouldn't worry about the purple hand sections though, because we could really just float over everything. So what if I told you we didn't have to do any of that at all, and we could immediately skip to the final boss of the chapter? Well, you'd probably believe me, but there is a little oversight we can take advantage of in this chapter. If you grab one of the barrels that help us float, we can slowly float up the side of the elevator and reach an out of bounds area. After this, we can continue to float upwards to reach a pipe on the wall where we can stand on. If we explore this spot, we can find a loading zone, which is usually supposed to activate after using the elevator when you're trying to run away from Catnap, which is the main villain of this chapter. This loading zone takes us to a Five Nights at Freddy's style segment where we're going to need to use batteries to push Catnap away using smoke on 5 different entrances. An issue we run into for this challenge, however, is that we can't push Catnap away from the front left entrance, and since we need to survive for 3 minutes here, it's pretty much up to chance whether or not I can actually get through this. Thankfully, not all the catnaps we're going to see in this area are real. Normally you can shoot your flares at them to remove the fakes, but since the fakes can't kill you anyway, all we need to do is worry about this front right entrance, since that is the only area that can possibly have a real catnap that we are able to chase away. After the first battery is done being used, sometimes Catnap will try to intrude through the ceiling. And a bit of knowledge I know about this specific Catnap is that he will always 100% of the time be able to defeat us. And since there can only be one real version of Catnap roaming around at a time, we don't need to worry about the other Catnaps anymore since we can stall out the real one. So instead of simply closing the ceiling, we can almost close it, let it open up, and then almost close it again, and repeat that for the entirety of this segment. But it's not that simple. We also have to plug in the batteries while doing this. It seems that the ceiling entrance is very lenient though, so we can plug in all the batteries, charge up our green hand, and defeat Catnap while only using the green hand. But now, something is wrong. Our green hand is stuck on Catnap's shoulder, and he ascends after we defeat him, so now we've lost the one thing that made this challenge possible so far. The green hand helped us through this run, but now we have to continue on without it. We have to go down the elevator after this, and after pressing the button with our nose, we can slowly go downwards to find our greatest enemy, a battery. And it's blue, almost like it's taunting us since we can't grab it without our green hand. But since we skipped a whole bunch of the story in this run, we can avoid this battery and reach the final room where we can meet up with Poppy, who lets us get onto a descending platform to end the chapter while only using the green hand, making this challenge possible. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did making it. This game is very broken, and that's a big reason why I like it so much. Anyways, that's all I got.